with the High Aim 6 towed back to Perth for further investigation. Forensic teams descended upon the derelict vessel to uncover evidence of the crimes committed aboard. DNA analysis on the bloodstained tiles in the ship's bathroom matched the missing crew members, confirming their fate. But other evidence was far more disturbing. Surveillance cameras captured images of the accused murderers boarding a lifeboat and disappearing into the vast Pacific Ocean. The boat, similar to the ones used by the Thai fishing fleet involved in human trafficking, was too small to have carried all 10 crew members. But it wasn't just the presence of the lifeboat that baffled investigators. It was what was found inside the captain's cabin. A smuggled mobile phone was discovered hidden in a bag along with SIM cards from different countries, including Thailand, Singapore, and Malaysia. Had the mutineers planned to resurface somewhere else? And if so, why leave behind so much valuable property on the High Aim 6? Further investigation into the stolen mobile phone exposed another crucial detail. Phone records showed that, after abandoning the ship, several crew members used the stolen phone to make calls to locations throughout Southeast Asia. But how could they have access to a Taiwanese phone line after fleeing with an Indonesian crew? Here's where the twisted tale of deception and betrayal takes a dark turn. Two of the alleged murderers resurfaced 2 months later, identified only as Usman and Samian. They approached the Indonesian authorities claiming to have survived the mutiny and offering their testimony. Their story unfolded like a terrifying nightmare straight out of a Hollywood thriller. According to Usman and Samian, they had been recruited for a lucrative fishing job aboard the High Aim 6, but soon realized that the Taiwanese owners had a sinister plan. The ship was not only fishing illegally in protected waters, but also engaged in shark finning, the brutal practice of removing a shark's fins and discarding its body back into the ocean, a wasteful practice considered cruel and illegal by many nations. Tensions escalated when the Indonesian crew demanded better treatment and higher wages. In response, the Taiwanese officers allegedly devised a horrifying plan. They locked the crew in the ship's bathroom, intending to starve them until they agreed to work without pay. But somehow, possibly through negligence or sabotage, water from the ship's seawater cooling system leaked into the bathroom. Unable to withstand the pressure, the bathroom ceiling collapsed, freeing the trapped crew. Enraged and desperate for revenge, the Indonesian workers attacked and killed the officers, then fled in a lifeboat. Usman and Samion claimed they didn't participate in the killings, citing religious reasons. Upon hearing their harrowing testimony, the Indonesian government arrested and charged the two men with murder, piracy, and desertion. However, their version of events raised more questions than it answered. Why would the ship's owners engage in illegal shark finning, risking international penalties? Why did the Taiwanese officers lock the crew in a bathroom knowing it would collapse? And why were these two men alone in a lifeboat, while the rest of the crew was left to die? As the trial commenced, Usman and Samian stuck to their story. The defense lawyer argued that his clients were innocent victims of circumstance, thrust into a horrific situation when the bathroom ceiling collapsed. He claimed that they were merely hiding on the ship to escape the wrath of the vengeful Indonesian crew. But inconsistencies in their story soon emerged. The leaky pipes theory couldn't explain how the pipework failed or why the ship's alarms weren't activated. The prosecution suggested that the ceilings collapsed due to negligence on the part of the Taiwanese officers, leaving the Indonesians to retaliate in kind. But perhaps most damning was the revelation that the two men had called themselves from the stolen phone after abandoning the ship. This evidence contradicted their claim of innocence and survival against their will. But with the Indonesian authorities heavily invested in prosecuting these two men, could the truth ever be uncovered? Or would justice be served to the wrong men? Now, since Usman and Samiun faced up to 20 years in prison in Indonesia for their alleged crimes, they struck a deal with prosecutors. In exchange for a reduced sentence, they confessed to the crime, claiming that after killing the officers, they fled on the lifeboat because they feared being caught. They also admitted to stealing the mobile phone, providing investigators with the location of the other 8 crew members. All 8 were subsequently arrested, facing charges of murder and piracy. The trial continues to be clouded by controversy, raising troubling questions about the nature of the crimes committed aboard the High Aim 6. Was it truly a mutiny sparked by inhumane treatment? Or was there a more sinister motive behind the killings? The brutal slayings of Captain Chen and Engineer Lin shocked the international maritime community. It brought to light the grim reality of the global fishing industry, characterized by long hours, cramped living conditions, and little oversight. With the arrest of all 10 crew members, the hope was that justice would finally be served. But the road to prosecution is fraught with challenges. Getting witnesses from Indonesia to testify in Taiwan can be a daunting task. But despite the obstacles, authorities are determined to bring closure to this haunting case. The discovery of the abandoned High Aim 6 sent shockwaves throughout the maritime industry. It highlighted the need for increased safety measures and monitoring of fishing vessels to prevent such tragedies. The legacy of the High Aim 6 serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most routine operations. As the trials move forward, the world waits to hear the full account of what transpired aboard the High Aim 6. The murders of Captain Chen and Engineer Lin were nothing short of appalling. It raises concerns about the mistreatment of crew members on fishing vessels, and the lengths to which desperation and abuse can drive people. The subsequent cover-up attempts only added to the gravity of the crime, showcasing the lengths the accused were willing to go to conceal their actions. But one question remains: what was the true motivation behind the killings? Was it the result of unbearable working conditions, the allure of mutiny, or something more sinister? Unfortunately, we may never know the definitive answer. As the trial concludes, the families of the victims seek justice for their loved ones while the accused face the consequences of their actions. The High Aim 6 stands as a symbol of the unforgiving nature of the seas and the darkness that can reside in the hearts of men. The legacy of the High Aim 6 serves as a stark reminder of the unforgiving nature of the open seas and the darkness that can lurk within the human heart. As the trial progresses, our thoughts are with the families and friends of the victims who continue to seek justice for the slain officers. The fate of the accused now lies in the hands of the judicial system as they confront the consequences of their alleged actions. The future holds uncertainty as the full extent of the crimes committed aboard the High Aim 6 continue to unravel. But one thing remains certain: the echoes of this tragedy will resonate in the annals of maritime history, serving as a chilling reminder of the importance of justice, accountability, and the sanctity of human life. What do you think really happened aboard the High Aim 6? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for watching. On January 15, 2003, exactly 1 week after the High Aim 6 was discovered drifting empty, something extraordinary happened, according to Taiwan's central news agency. Local phone calls were being made from Indonesia using the cell phone belonging to engineer Lin Chunli, the very same Lin Chunli who had been murdered in early December 2002. Here's what makes this story so captivating. Authorities in Indonesia began receiving reports of strange phone calls being made from locations near Manado in North Sulawesi province. All of the calls originated from the same number, and when the local phone company checked their records, they found that the account holder was registered under the name Lin Chunli. As soon as word spread that the murdered engineer's phone was being used in Indonesia, Taiwan's representative office in Jakarta immediately alerted the Indonesian government. They requested an urgent investigation into the matter, hoping it might lead them to the whereabouts of the missing crew members from the High Aim 6. Within days, the Indonesian police had tracked down one of the ship's surviving crew members, a 48-year-old man identified only as Wu, who was apprehended in the port city of Manado when questioned. The crew member broke down and confessed to participating in the murders of both Captain Chen and engineer Lin in early December 2002. He also admitted to stealing a significant amount of cash and valuables from the deceased engineer before fleeing. But here's where the case takes its most chilling turn. The crew member could not provide any motive for the crimes. He couldn't explain why they killed their officers, why they abandoned millions of dollars worth of vessel and catch, or how they coordinated their escape across thousands of miles of open ocean. Moreover, the crew member insisted that he had no knowledge of the phone calls from Indonesia. He claimed that if anyone else had the phone, they must have bought it from someone or somewhere else. This claim didn't hold up, however. The confessed crew member later recanted his statement and claimed that he must have unknowingly used Linny's phone after taking it from the dead man's body. However, the police failed to uncover any evidence supporting this theory. No SIM card was found inside the phone, nor was there any indication that it had ever been tampered with. Furthermore, a thorough examination of the vessel's cabins failed to reveal any other signs of forced entry or struggle. To add to the mystery, the investigation revealed a pattern of similar incidents involving Taiwanese fishing vessels. The previous year, another Taiwanese fishing boat, the Harishing 6, was discovered empty by Indonesian military forces. 3 crew members were subsequently arrested and confessed to murdering their officers in what appeared to be a coordinated mutiny, although these 2 cases share some similarities. The circumstances surrounding the murder of Captain Chen and engineer Lin are far more perplexing. There is no record of the men ever having conflicts with any of their crew members prior to the murders. Both victims were found with multiple stab wounds, suggesting a violent struggle, and the fact that the attackers left the valuable cargo untouched, along with the mysterious phone calls from Indonesia, points to a level of sophistication that sets this case apart from other instances of piracy or robbery at sea. The following questions arise from these events. The first is, why did the crew kill their officers? It seems unlikely that the murders were committed solely for the money, since the crew abandoned millions of dollars worth of fish and a fully loaded ship. It's possible that there was a power struggle between the crew and the officers, or maybe the crew members felt mistreated and sought revenge. Another question is, how did the crew coordinate their actions? Given that the phone was discovered on board the vessel, it's likely that the crew used some form of communication to plan their attack. However, no evidence of this has been uncovered. They would have needed to communicate their plans in advance to ensure everyone was on board, which raises the question of how they managed to do so without being detected. Finally, how did the crew escape and survive for a week at sea? Crew members could have used lifeboats or life rafts, but it seems unlikely that they would have chosen to abandon the ship and leave its life rafts behind. It's more likely that they used small boats to flee, but this would require them to have brought additional vessels onto the scene. Alternatively, they could have used the ship's flares to signal passing vessels and arranged for pickup. Regardless of how they escaped, it's a miracle that they survived a week in the water. Without food and water, it's doubtful that they would have lived to tell the tale. This case highlights the importance of thorough investigations in all criminal cases, no matter how straightforward they may seem. The initial assumption that the ship had been hijacked was incorrect, as evidenced by the discovery of the confession letter. The murder weapon was never recovered, and the motive for the crime remains unclear. The killer's intent was not financial, as nothing was taken from the ship or its cargo. Personal belongings were the only things that were taken, which suggests that the murder was personal. However, there is no record of any disputes between the victim and the accused, making the motive unclear. The defense argued that the confession was coerced and that the prosecution had not proven the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. However, the judge ruled that the confession was voluntary and that the prosecution had proven the defendant's guilt. This case serves as a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that every detail must be investigated thoroughly to reach a just conclusion. This case also highlights the challenges faced by law enforcement in complex murder cases, particularly when dealing with unreliable witnesses and conflicting evidence. In this case, several witnesses provided conflicting accounts of the crime, which made it difficult to determine what had actually occurred. Law enforcement officials had to sort through all of the misinformation to piece together what happened. Additionally, the case involved numerous forensic elements, including DNA evidence, fingerprints, and ballistics, which had to be carefully analyzed and interpreted. Despite these challenges, law enforcement officials were able to solve the case and bring the perpetrator to justice. The investigation and trial were lengthy and complex, but the outcome was worth it. Justice was served and the victim's family finally had some closure. But what kept maritime investigators awake at night is the realization that there may be countless other cases like this happening around the world that are never solved. The ocean is vast and most of it is uncharted territory. Many ships go missing each year without a trace, and the cases are often closed with little effort made to find the perpetrators. In many cases, the ships and their crews are never found, leaving their families and loved ones with more questions than answers. These unsolved cases highlight the need for greater international cooperation among law enforcement officials in order to protect seafarers and ensure the safety of our oceans. By working together, we can create a safer environment for those who work on our seas and give their families peace of mind, knowing that their loved ones are safe. Today, the High Aim 6 case remains officially unsolved. While one crew member confessed to the murders, 7 others are still at large. The true motive for the killings has never been established, and the full details of what happened during those final hours aboard the vessel may never be known. But here's what keeps maritime investigators awake at night. How many other ghost ships are still drifting in our oceans, carrying the secrets of mutiny, murder, and maritime mysteries that will never be solved? The High Aim 6 proved that, even in our modern world of satellite communications and GPS tracking, the vast Pacific Ocean can still swallow entire crews whole, leaving behind only questions, rotting fish, and calls from a stolen phone. What do you think really happened aboard the High Aim 6? Was this a coordinated mutiny plan from the beginning, or did something trigger a spontaneous act of violence that spiraled out of control? And most importantly, how many other vessels are out there right now, drifting in the darkness with secrets that will never be told? Share your theories in the comments below, and if you want to explore more chilling maritime mysteries that challenge everything we think we know about safety at sea, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the ocean keeps its secrets until someone brave enough comes looking for the truth.